Welcome to the video, darlings. I hope you're having a great day, and if not, I hope I can make your day a little better. On this video today, we will be reading No One Must Cry by Saguaroo. This fic is rated teen and up audience with the archive warning major character death. The relationship in this fic is Silco/Vander. Additional tags are Angst, Betrayal, Murder, Grief and Mourning, and Guilt. If any of that content is not to your liking, please feel free to click off the video. But if not, then let's continue. This video is in audio format only. An image or GIF will be displayed on screen whilst the audio plays, so you can have this going in the background whilst you work, study, or sleep, and you won't have to worry about missing out on anything visually. Without further ado, let's get on with the fic. The cold of the grey, the morn of the prey, every Zornite must pray. We fight for our lives, we fight for our minds, we fight because no one must cry. I'll go back to my mother, you'll go back to your father, they'll reach back to their lover, everyone must survive. We fight for our lives, we fight for our minds, we fight because no one must cry. At hand are the pistols, O brothers and sisters, we'll come out as victors, O siblings of Zorn. He felt the words banging in his head like a reminder of his betrayal, a guilt clutching his heart in a mortal grasp. He could still feel the blood on his hands despite washing them over and over for the last hour. He could still hear his lover's feeble voice as he tried to console him. Vander was the one dying and he was comforting Silco. He felt like throwing up, but had nothing in his stomach to spit out anymore. So he simply clenched his fists around his hip and let the tears run down his face. He thought they would run out at some point. He remembered singing that same song with his brothers in arms that morning, humming in unison while getting ready. He could still feel the adrenaline surging through his body, even if now it had a different nature. He could still see Vander's wild smile when they sang it, with their rebel brothers on their way to fight. His loud voice standing out even between hundreds of people, and it was beautiful. How was he supposed to tell Vi that her favourite uncle was dead along with her parents? How was he supposed to break the news to the sisters? He tugged at his hair in a silent cry, murmuring insults and begs at his memory of Vander. Why did you die, you selfish bastard? Words so wet with tears and spit that no one could understand them anyway. He held Vander's jacket between his arms, pushing it as close as humanly possible, as if it could bring him back, as if it could undo what Silco had done. Here was the sound of a gun again, but only in his head. The memory of the shot, the memory of the range, and the memory of Vander falling to the wet ground. Silco ran to him immediately, the anger fading into desperate anguish within seconds. He screamed and begged and repeated that he was sorry hundreds of times, but it was too late. And the only thing he could do was hug the man as much as he could without lifting him, crying into his chest. He felt the words more than he heard them when Vander softly told him that he forgave him, that it was all right. Don't cry, he said, lifting one of those big hands and pushing their foreheads together. He was so weak. Silco never thought he would see his brother, his lover, without his usual strength. There he was, lying dead in the water, a single rock keeping him over the water level. Silco was still wet from the rain and the river. He stank of the river's pollution and the smoke of the battle, but he stayed crouched in the little puddle in the corner of his room. It was their room, but the mere thought would push more tears from his eyes. The leftover soup from the previous day was still sitting on the stove. They planned to eat it when coming back, before going to the party for the victory. They would have gotten drunk and laughed with Benzo, Felicia and Connell. They would have gotten so drunk to pass out, right there in the streets, and woke up only the next day. The two would have built their Zorn together, as a family. But Silco was alone now. Everyone he knew and loved had died. Benzo and the kids were still alive, that's true, but not him. No one could live in his eyes if Vander didn't get to do it along with them. Don't cry. Fuck if he cried. He cried until Benzo pulled him away from Vander's body, alarmed, asking what happened. He cried when Benzo noticed the gun in his hands and the bullet hole in their friend's chest. He cried as he shot down at his feet to get away from the strong grasp and run away. He was crying at that moment in their shared nest. Clearly no one wanted to see him, because it was an obvious place to look for him. But he never got to explain his reasons to anyone. He probably never would. How could he explain it anyway? The fear and the rage when he saw Felicia and Connell lying under the debris was not something he could explain. The homicidal urge when he understood it was Vander's fault, when he saw his guilty eyes and shaking hands. But if he could go back, he would change everything. He would scream and punch, but he would not shoot. He would welcome Vander's calming hands, always so comforting. But would Vander calm him down? Would he do it in such a state? He did when he was dying. Silco would never know now, just like he would never feel those warm hands on his cheek, or the warmth of the man's body against his own. Silco? The man raised his head. 2 small children, Powder and Vi, his nieces. They were orphans now, and it was Vander's fault. They only had Silco, and it was his fault. He dried his tears and looked at the pink-haired girl approaching him, a concerned expression sprawling across her face. Silco realized she didn't know about her parents. She was simply seeing her uncle crying and whining on the ground, clutching a jacket like an idiot. "It's all right, Vi." He reached out with his hand, stroking her hair. "You're amazing." And again, the gut-wrenching feeling, the pain in his chest that threatened to tear his heart out. They both had dried tears down their cheeks. Dirt covered every part of their clothes and faces, and they were so scared. "You too, Pow Pow." He stroked her hair to make it even and looked back at Violet, more concerned than before. "Go to Benzo. Can I trust you to bring her there?" Vi opened her mouth to say more, to ask, maybe to cry. Silco wouldn't know. He got up and left with the jacket still in his hands. He wasn't the right person to grow them up. He wasn't the right person to do anything with people. He wasn't worth that. But maybe, if he worked hard enough, he could make it up to Zorn. He could avenge Vander, Felicia, himself. He walked aimlessly the whole night, humming the same tune along with his steps. We fight for our lives, we fight for our minds, we fight because no one must cry. And when the day comes, with rage in our bones, we'll throw our stones to those on the thrones. We'll fight for our lives, we'll fight for our minds, we'll fight because no one must cry. And if I happen to fall, for me do not mourn, the price will be small for the freedom of Zorn. We fight for our lives, we fight for our minds, we fight because no one must cry. We fight for our lives, we fight for our minds, we fight because no one must cry. That's all from me for now, my darlings. I hope your day or night is wonderful, and I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you soon. Bye.